Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Takeover Crossover Podcast. I need y'all to do me a favor really quick. I need y'all to share this live, like it, share it, tell your homeboys, tell your homegirls, because it's going down right now on the Takeover Crossover Podcast. I am your host, Evangelist Stephanie Williams, and I have my co-host with me, Tori Danielle. Come on, sis. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we go forward.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tori Danielle. I am the editor-in-chief of Creed Magazine, where we enlighten and inspire the faith-driven, fashion-loving lifestyle of the modern Christian. I am here with my sister Stephanie on the Takeover Crossover Podcast. We do this on Thursday and Saturdays, and we are so excited. I know I'm excited to get into these conversations. Oh my goodness, look who we have here. We got some conversation for you guys, and I am excited. So let's dive right in, sis. Let's go.
Come on, I'm ready. We want our guests to tell us a little bit about yourself before we go. We're going to start with Anicia, and then we're going to start with Frank afterwards, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so very much for inviting me onto your stage. So I am Anicia Williams. I am a Chief Client and Communications Officer for a VC firm out of Brooklyn. I'm native to Raleigh, North Carolina, where all of my family is. And I'm just happy to be here.
Cool. Frank,
good evening, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me fine. I just want to say how good and pleasant it is when brothers and sisters dwell together in unity. My name is Frank Rivers. I'm the creator of View from the Man Cave. That is my channel on YouTube, where I talk about all things related to masculinity and manhood, responsibility and respect, provision and protection. I'm here in Washington, D.C. I'm a federal law enforcement officer here, so I work in DC Superior Court and U.S. Federal District Court. And I'm also a native of Raleigh, North Carolina. That is my home. That is where all of my family is. I came to Washington, D.C. Because of the military. I was in the Army, and my last duty station was at Walter Reed. So I just set up shop here and stayed. So thank you guys for having me.
We thank you guys for accepting the invitation, and we want to just re-innovate this one more time. We need y'all to share this live on tonight. We are talking about relationship. This is what the Takeover Crossover Podcast is all about, to bring an all-around balance to you with finances, wealth, relationship, prayer, all that good stuff, to bring those key gems that you need to continue your daily walk, your daily life that you're living on this earth. So we are excited on tonight, and we are talking about relationships. It don't just stop in February, because we are going through things in everyday life. Those that are married, those that are always looking to be dating, you constantly need those gems. You constantly need that that relationship talk constantly, because it keeps you ahead of the game. It keeps you to be aware of your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wives, what you want, what you don't want. We're kind of bringing so many different aspects with the Takeover Crossover, just so you can say to yourself, you know what, I really need to really think about this before I get into this relationship. I need to think before I walk down the aisle. Or even those that are married, you might need to hear this to keep your relationship going stronger. I mean, you never stop learning. You can always keep learning more, right, sis? You can always keep going.
That's exactly right. And, we never, ever stop learning. I don't care how young or how old you are. The one thing that's most valuable is that you keep your mind open to receive information in different ways on how to do things and how to process through this thing called life, and with another person. I think that's most important, because that person is ever evolving. I tell people all the time, like, every 10 years, you're a new person. And if you go back and think about your life when you were from the time of 18 to 28, you are a totally different person now if you're over the age of 28. And from 28 to 38, that continues to evolve. So understanding how to continue to evolve with another person is very, very important. So I'm with it. Let's go.
Let's jump into it then. So our topic on tonight is what a woman wants and what a man needs. So we have Frank from the Man Cave. He's going to tell us the perspective, as well as Anicia, as well as Tori and myself. We're going to talk about what are the things that we want, but sometimes we expect, as women, we got to be honest, we expect that the man's supposed to know right from the gate. My favorite color, what I like to eat. He's supposed to know. He's supposed to know everything about me because he's supposed to be God sent. So that's why we have Frank here to know that we have to do our first one will be communication, open communication. How important it is to have communication in a relationship. Talk to us, Anicia. You on mute.
There we go. So communication to me is the foundation of any good relationship and any lasting relationship that you think is going to go the test of time. I always say, I'm not a mind reader. I am not Miss Cleo, and neither is he. So if you want, your man to know something, you need to tell him and not assume that he knows it. He's not a mind reader. So I am divorced, and one of the things that Tori said was, who you were, 10 years ago, they're not the same. And I got married when I was young, in college, and who I thought I was then and who I am now at 40, those are two different people, like two different people. And so again, like I said, communication, it is key. It is vital. And it's from the moment that you meet that person to the moment that you decide that you're going to, either, go forward or not go forward, but you have to do that. And I think, social media gives people this false sense of security and this false sense of, well, he should have known because I posted on my Instagram, like, you have no idea how many times I've heard the foolery. And I'm just like, guys, like, you're not dating Instagram and Facebook, like you are dating and trying to date a person. And hopefully you're dating with a purpose. So communication is critical to any type of relationship, guy or girl, friendship or not. It just has to be there. And you cannot assume anything with your mate either. Even when you're together, even you're 5-10 years together, still don't assume nothing, because just like how you're changing, that man is also changing too.
Wow, that's good.
That's exactly right. I also did the same thing. I got married very young, but I also got divorced very young. But I realized even then that I would not have been. I'm kind of like it was something that needed to happen to show me. A lot of times people we want something so bad, right? We want to be married so bad that we don't understand what it actually entails and what goes into it. And so when you do something like that so young, and I am a witness of it, you show yourself, do you really want this? Are you ready for this? Can you go the distance? And like you said, Anicia, how much work are we willing to do? And even if we do the work, how much have we changed that causes like us to stop? You know what I mean? To reevaluate who we are.
What you're talking about is what I call pick-me-sha. That's the pick-me-sha syndrome. It don't matter who it is. You just want to be chose so that you can say, I'm married, I got a bae,
That's right. That's all right.
On, like, it does not matter. It's that pick-me-sha syndrome. And we gotta, like, ladies, we got to break out of that, because we're getting with people and communing with people that we shouldn't even be with in the first place, just because I want to be married or I want a father figure for my child, like, because you want those things. And
right.
And we just got to get out of that pick-me-sha thing. Like I just, the way that I look at relationships and how I move in life now is just, it's just so freaking different. And when you are aligned, when you know who you are and whose you are, and where you are going, you can attract the type of man or woman that you seek. And the things, because it's like you're not going to attract somebody that's like the exact same. It's like, opposites always attract, right? But I think being very clear about what it is that you want, where it is, that you are, and going forth that way, so that when you do get these frogs that are not it, you are able to recognize like this is what this is and making a choice if I'm going to deal with it or not, when you are very, very clear about, you know, the things that you want.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like my issue personally was that I didn't have wise counsel. Because at that age you don't know what not to look for. You don't know how not to be a pick-me-sha. So this is why we need wise counsel. So I don't always blame it on the woman or the man for that matter at that age, you know, because at that time I was 21 years old, barely knew anything about anything. So I think it goes back to that counsel part. That's why we at our age now have to help the pick-me-shas, you know.
Listen, you are so right about that.
We're responsible for the pick-me-shas right now.
You're right about that. But when you over 40 and you still doing pick-me-sha things.
Now come on, that's it right there. You got to stop the pick-me-sha stuff.
Right?
I hit to decide on that one.
Listen, but yeah, like I got married at 22, you know, and one of the things I always say, I love being married, but I married the wrong guy. And I love the whole, you know, covenant, all of that stuff. Like I'm a relationship person. I'm not a, you know, I'm dating all these people. Like that's just not my thing. But I learned so much about myself and what marriage actually was and what it was not going through that process. Like, you know, there's always the big debate about, you know, submission and submitting to your husband. Like that is always like the thing. And for me, I was like, you know, I'm a super, like, I'm super, whatever I do, like it's 100%. Like I don't give half of nothing. I don't, if it's job work, it does not matter. So I was like, I'm gonna be a super wife. Like, so whatever that is, I'm gonna be a super wife. So I took submission, like literally, like a man controlled how I wore my hair. I wore a bob for 5 years, like what my clothes, like everything, because in my mind, again, I'm thinking, oh, I'm supposed to submit. So whatever it is that my husband says, then that is what I'm supposed to do. And he was 10 years older than me and he knew better. But again, like not understanding. So I took that thing like literally like, okay, whatever my husband says, like it goes. And in that, I lost me and I had to figure out who I was because I was being something to somebody else. Like he was, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't.
Yeah. So let me ask you this real quick, Stephanie, if you don't mind. I just want to ask Frank a quick question.
Okay.
Frank, that word submission, what does it really mean to a man? Right. What does that word really and truly embody? Like, what does it encompass when you're looking for a woman that is, you know, to submit? Because we know that the definition of submission and the way we use it are two different things. So what does it mean to a man for a woman to fully submit?
I think submission, and thank you for asking me that. I think that submission just, to me, it means trust. It means love and it means respect. These are all three principles that men stand on, that men need, you know, from a woman in relationships and then a marriage. So it's just respect, you know. If you look at it from a biblical standpoint, we all know what the Bible says, I'm assuming we do, that it tells, you know, wives to submit to their husbands, and it tells us to love, you know, to love our wives the way that Christ loved. And so I think that the mistake that men make is they focus on the perks of the covenant, the perks of the relationship without the requirements or the responsibilities of it. And there's a responsibility that a man has to uphold in order to receive that submission. That submission doesn't come lightly. It doesn't come just because, you know, I have a male sexual organ. I don't get it because of that. I get it because I love this woman. I provide for this woman. I protect this woman. I pray for this woman, and I create a safe space that encourages her to be her best self. And because I do that, that opens her up, that allows her to be vulnerable, to submit to me and to say, okay, look, wherever we're going, I trust it because I trust you based off of what how, you know, what you've done for me, and I can follow that and take heed to it.
That's
Ooh.
what he's talking about.
Ooh, that was good.
What he's talking about is that covering, right?
Mhm.
Like it's the covering. So if my mate, if this relationship here, if that relationship is good and on a foundation, because he said, you know, love your wives this way, right? Then the covering down here will be covered. And I ask, you know, sometimes my girlfriends, I'm like, well, because if you don't have no relationship up here, there is no covenant. This is the covenant right here that guides his principles of how he's supposed to love me and how
Come on now.
to cover me, right?
Mhm.
If you don't got no prayer life, baby, where you leading me to? There is
A
nowhere.
dead end.
There is nowhere that we can go because you're not covering me.
Wow. You uncovered. So
Right.
that uncovers the wife.
Right. And that's the focus. It has to be, you know, because I see it a lot. I talk to a lot of brothers and, you know, who are married. I'm married myself, happily married 14 years. And so we go to marriage retreats and things like that. And, you know, we have portions where we have breakout sessions where all the husbands will go in a room and all the wives will go in a room, and we just, you know, kind of chop it up like that. And so a lot of things that the brothers will talk about in the breakout sessions for the husbands are, you know, well, she's not doing this and you know, she's not doing that, or things have changed and things are different now. And I'm not getting certain things that I used to get, or I never got them. And so the conversation will always turn to, well, you know, what are you doing? You know what I mean? As a husband, as a man, I'm responsible for my household. That's how I move. So if the household is out of order, that means I'm out of order.
Period.
That means
You better come on now.
That's
Man
right.
cave in the house.
I'm not saying this just to cap. I mean, this is how I move. And I do that because, you know, I understand that I'm responsible for this household. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's how I look at it. So when it's my time to go home, when God calls me home, my understanding of the way I feel is that when I go and I'm being judged and I'm going through that process, I'm going to be asked, okay, well, what did you do for them? What did you do for your wife and your children? Because they were a gift that I gave to you. And your responsibility is to take that gift and shape it and form it and lead it in such a way where I get glory from it. And so if I don't get glory from it, you know, I have to take accountability. And that's another big word that a lot of brothers may be afraid of from time to time, but you have to be accountable. And so it's very important that you can't always look on the other side and focus on what she's doing or what he's doing. Sometimes you have to really look at yourself and say, what role am I playing? How can I change my energy and change the atmosphere from where I sit so that I can help shift some things around so that, you know, we're communicating better and we can have a healthier marriage and relationship.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you what just popped in my head when he was talking about responsibility. You know, I come up with these quirky little sayings, right? So the Holy Spirit just dropped in my spirit that men, there are a lot of men that want response, but they don't want the responsibility. They want a woman to respond in a certain way, but they don't want to take on the responsibility of praying and covering and taking care. They want the response of a submissive woman, but they don't want the responsibility of taking care of a submissive woman. So there are some things that just in that little piece that you said that kind of like leaped inside of me. They want the response. They want us to respond a certain way, but they don't want the responsibility.
Because the level of accountability.
Or even to add on to that, you have to have the ability to get the right response that you want.
That's right.
So, you know, what type of abilities are you, right. What type of abilities are you showcasing to get the type of response that you want?
That's right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's right. That's it.
And the pick me up, it ain't it.
Look, you gotta hashtag that one, sis. Pick me. Come on.
That's right.
So let me ask you this question, Frank.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say something about the communication too. Like we started off with that, and just very briefly, if I may.
Absolutely.
I think communication is very important. It's the bridge between two people. If the relationship is a body, communication is the veins. It allows things to travel and move around. And I think that what my sister said about communication and being open and honest and direct is very important. But you also have to understand how to communicate to your partner, because at the end of the day, that's what love is. Love is me being able to provide you with a certain level of affection and gratitude in a way that you can accept it and understand it. So if I give you love in a way that I think you deserve it or I think you should have it, if that doesn't line up with how you're willing to receive it, then I'm not giving you love and I'm not communicating to you properly. So, if for example, I grew up in a family with all my family were a bunch of arguers. Everybody argued. We argued over the remote. We argued over who was going to get the Kool-Aid. We argued about what flavor we were going to drink. We argued a lot. So we were loud. You had to fight for everything, so to speak. And so that's how I grew up, in Raleigh, on the south side of Raleigh. And so when I got into relationships and when I got into a marriage, I thought that was going to fly. And my wife and women are delicate. Women are feminine. Women are soft. So I can't talk to a woman, my wife, or a woman the way that I would talk to, my family members or my homies or brothers or people that I grew up with. So I had to understand and learn how to communicate. Yeah, I want to say something too. I want to express it, but how can I form and fashion it in a way where she can accept it and understand where I'm coming from without feeling the need to have to put a wall up and defend herself. You know what I mean? So that's important.
Let me just say this right quick for all the fellas out there that might need a mentor, that might need a little guidance in your life. You might need to follow Frank on the Man Cave, because he is shooting some good gems of how to treat a woman, a lady, a queen. Come on now. And sometimes you got to hear it from a bro, and sometimes the ladies got to hear it from our brothers to hear, how to cohesive with our relationships. You know what I mean? And as he just said, delicate, because a lot of women are. And if you treat her like that, then you're going to get the opposite than that. This is some good stuff.
Right.
This is some good stuff.
Yeah. And just on that communication piece, we have to understand that we have to be able to receive communication. That's one issue that I had. When I first started my relationship with my now fiance, he was willing to communicate with me, but because I was in such a relationship that was a horrible, like we had horrible communication. So now when I have someone who comes along who is willing to communicate, I had to break down that barrier of receiving communication. We say we want something, like, just like the title, What a Woman Wants. We want to be communicated with, but then we turn around and we're not able to receive that. So we also have to open up ourselves to receive the communication that real men try to give us. There are women who want to communicate.
Let me ask you this. How important is it therapy?
Very.
And
counseling, very.
You go through different relationships, because I think that's how people end up dating the same people over and over and over again. Because they have not identified the common denominator, which is you, which is yourself. I had met a guy and he had just got divorced and everything. And he was so used to not receiving love and not receiving care and communication that when I did it to him and for him, he thought it was foreign. Like, he thought it was like, oh, this is a trap. Like, I don't understand this. And then one day I asked him how his relationship was with his mom and dad. And he told me the way that his dad acts is the way that he now acts. And the way that his mom acts is the way that I acted. But when he was married, the roles were reversed. Wow. So the wife was acting like the daddy. He was acting like the mom. And I'm like, baby, you need to go and talk to somebody about that, because it is going to shape every relationship that you have because of those dynamics.
Mhm.
And it's like you're struggling with how to receive love and how to give it because of what you've seen. And so you duplicated what you saw with your mom
Mhm.
in your marriage. And since that didn't work, now you're flipping back over to your dad. So, so again, again, when we're out here dating, I'm a proponent of being your whole self. You cannot go and try to find somebody to make you whole. If you're not a whole person, like that is not going to work. And people like to form relationships out of trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like, you went through this, or we went through this together, so we got to be together. Like, no, you don't. Or
that's called trauma bonding.
Trauma. Yeah, exactly.
It's called trauma bonding. You're gravitating to a person because y'all have the same traumatic energy.
Wow.
So, and that's not good either.
It's not. But I am a big proponent of therapy, a big one. And I know for me, when I got divorced, I went to therapy because I wanted to see, what were the things that I could have done? What were the things that I could have changed? How can I be a better person, for me, one, and then to be a better person for the mate that I want to attract.
Right. Exactly.
And that was very important to me. And I left. I'm the one that asked for a divorce, but I wanted to learn. I didn't want to be dating the same person over and over again. I didn't want to get into another relationship or into another marriage not having learned the lessons from that relationship. And that was very, very, very important to me. Very.
So just to segue, we have a question here. And the question is from Stella. And it says, hello, when you talk about wise counsel before marriage, what does it look like? Is it getting advice from people who you perceive as successful marriage or a successful marriage, or getting pre-counseling? So Frank, let's hear what your thoughts are concerning the counseling. Did you have counseling?
Sure. And I want to say to my sister Stella, that's a great question. Thank you for asking me. I did. When my wife and we got married fast. We actually met online, on this website called Black Planet back in the day.
Okay.
So we met online. And,
Black Planet?
Yeah, met on Black Planet. Yeah. So I know about it. So we met on that, and so we started. If things started moving really fast, and I knew exactly what I wanted, and she knew what she wanted. So we got married in 6 months. From the time I slid in her DM the first time to me proposing to us eloping to Jamaica to get married, that was all in 6 months. All in 6 months. And so before we did it, we said, we should do some counseling. This thing is moving fast. Everything is flowing, but we just want to make sure we're on the right page. So we did the counseling, and counseling encompassed a lot of things. It encompassed our family backgrounds. It encompassed our finances. There's a certain thing about being financially intimate too. There are people who will give you their body, but you can't see what I'm making. You better not ask me how much I make and what I'm doing with my money. There are married couples who do that. So, so we talked about, finances and, our credit, and we checked all of that. And we had, conversations about communication and about how to keep our family out of our business and who to talk to and things like that.
You better say that again.
So it was very important. It was very important. I remember one aspect of our counseling, they had us write a letter to our families. Basically saying we love y'all, but y'all don't have no say so in our household. And we had to do it, and we had to write a letter. It was very nice and typed out, and we signed it and sent it to our families. And some of them didn't really listen to that, but we did it. And just to wrap it up, I think it's very important to do. Wise counsel is important too. A lot of my friends, a lot of people that I listen to are older. These are brothers who have been married 20, 30, 40 years. Who have been everywhere, up, down, all around through their marriages, dealt with, family issues, dealt with infidelity, dealt with, blended families, all kind of things. So these are the people, these are the brothers that I go to. I don't go to people, with all due respect, I don't disrespect anybody, but you can't really talk to me about something that you've never been through, that you've never experienced. So
come on now.
even if you're divorced, I talk to brothers who have been divorced, and they'll tell me, like, look, Frank, this is where it went left for me. Don't do that. Don't say that. Don't move like that. Don't allow this to happen, because I did it and it didn't work out for me, and I don't want that to happen to you. So you want to have people around you that you can pour into. Above all, those people should want for you to be married and stay married. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't want people in your ear trying to get you, look, you above him. He ain't on your level. You shouldn't.
Right.
She done changed. She gained weight. You don't want it. You done, you making different money now. You don't want people around you that are gonna sow, negative energy and seeds into your relationship. So it's very important to have people around you that you can go to when you need advice on certain things.
Right. And I'm go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And just on the counseling thing, for those who are listening, it does not mean that the only counseling that you can do is to your church or to your pastor. Like, get an outside perspective, if you will, when you are going to counseling. Church is not the end all be all to go and get counseling. So please be open to actual counselors and things of that nature that are a third party, with you. And one of my girlfriends, they went to a divorce attorney, if you will, before they got married, and was literally like, these are the things, that we deal with when people want to come and now unseparate and untie this soul tie. And this is what you go through. Do you want a prenup? Do you not want a prenup? And this is why, and understanding, what that is, what have you, about protecting assets. It's kind of like, you're doing the work so that if something does happen in contingency, it's like you're going to go get insurance. It is insurance so that you can, know if something happens, this is what that thing is, right? So that it's clear. You are very much so clear. You know what it is that you want, where it is that you guys are trying to go. And not everything is going to work out. Not everything is going to be this perfect love story, right? But if in fact that it doesn't, both of you guys are protected. You're going in, not with the color roses and, the movie. You're going into it making an informed decision about how you're going to live your life with this next person.
Right. Sis, what do you think about counseling?
I think counseling is needed, because I feel like sis, that you asked me, that sometimes those that are single, we actually think that the other person is going to make us whole. Right. And I think they got the wrong perspective. You know what I mean? I think in our singleness, I know I'm single at the moment, but in your singleness, it's time for me to get Stephanie together. You know what I mean? Get healing from whether it's issues from when I was a kid, or, work on my credit, work on things that, I need to get. So when he sees me, he don't see a broken Stephanie, a little girl. He don't see somebody that, oh man, she's so damaged. Like, I really love her, but am I willing to be with her now with all of that? Like, you know what I mean? So I think that I think counseling is needed, because it helps you to find, it actually brings healing, should I say, to you. Right. It can help open up those doors to things that you might not have never shared with anybody. And sometimes you might need to go to somebody that you don't know, so they won't, play the game with you of, because I know you. Because sometimes you got to get that accurate answer. I'm just keeping it real. Yeah. Sometimes when people know you, they might just play with your emotions and know what you want to hear. Sometimes people only pick up the phone and say, if they're going to be the yes man, or they're going to always have my back, but that ain't helping the person, get free or get healed. It keeps them there. It actually stagnates their growth. Which is why I always get counseling outside of the church. Right. So I think that counseling is 100% is needed, because as Frank said something earlier, he said it's some things that I needed to know. So when we went to counseling, he said, we did what? We talked about credit. So you're not getting married and you're like, well, hold on, what you got? We didn't already said I do. And I'm like, you got a 300 credit score? What you mean? What's going on?
Oh, you got a lane? Really?
You got right.
Yeah,
And then it's
you
like,
know,
so now
yeah,
this is
yeah.
You got
so now this is in your marriage. So like he said, he asked those, this is the communication key now, you guys. So you ask those key questions in counseling.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everything you want to know about that person, anything that you can get out at that moment. So that guess what? When you walk in the aisle, nothing comes to you by surprise.
Right.
Because I already know that.
But you know what?
Exactly.
Though? But you know what though? Before you even get to the counselor, before you even get to the I do and I'm going to get married, those are questions that you should already know. You should already be asking those things before you get there. Because if you get there, all you're thinking about is the dress and everything else. And let me go ahead and get classes and we done. Like that stuff needs to be dealt with and known about. Like that 6 months or that year, like when he figured out, okay, like this is what we're gonna do, like we're gonna combine households and we're gonna do this. You need to find out that stuff now. Like 2 weeks before the wedding, when it's required for the pastor to marry you to go through this marriage counseling.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let me say this little piece.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Y'all got me here. Let me say this little piece real quick, sis. Because I feel like this, and I love this topic because I love this whole open forum because it's going to help somebody. You know, it's going to help. It's helping me because the reality is this. You know why? And we have to be honest. The only way we get freedom is being honest with ourselves.
Right.
Lying to ourselves or pretending something, you will never get the answers if you don't open up your mouth. And I think the reason why we don't say a lot of things to our brothers, because, you know, we have Frank here from the Man Cave. Why we don't? Because we're afraid of losing them. We feel like if we say too much, then he going to walk away. Or maybe he won't marry me. Or maybe he don't want me anymore. So guess what we'll do? We'll keep our mouth closed. And this is what happened. Now communication, now there's a block somewhere. And anything that is a blockage, that means it cannot flow. And as he said earlier, he said that counseling is what? He said it's the roots. It's the roots to bring that flow. And that's what your roots do. They bring the nourishment to the heart to keep it beating. And anytime there's a blockage, guess what? That's a dangerous area. So now we're in this whole thing right now, which is counseling, which is key, communication. And I feel like we don't open up our mouths to really the brain communication because we are afraid that they are going to leave and that they won't marry us.
That's right. That's right. And that's a true statement. And that piece right there is what, for me, that kept me in a relationship for 8 years that didn't really move forward because I kept my mouth closed, because every time something was said, it was like a backlash. Like I was always afraid of being alone. I mean, let's just be honest. Like that was the one thing that like kept me quiet and not communicating. And that's why I said now in this new relationship, in my best relationship that I've ever had, is that I'm with a communicator, right? And so now I had to reprogram myself that it's okay to talk. It's okay to say what's on your mind, because the man that you're with really loves you, and he's not going to leave you because you say you don't like the color blue or the color black. Like it's that sensitive sometimes. And so when we talk about that counseling, I just want to go back a smidge bit, because I know Frank mentioned this about getting counseling from your homies that might have been divorced. So for me personally, I said like together, when we went to counseling together, we went to a healthy married couple. And by healthy, I mean their relationship is healthy, their union is healthy, their understanding is healthy. They have a good balance of God and reality, like or not so much reality, but you know, the natural part of man. But to get counseling for myself, like if I was to talk to someone to kind of get checked on some things, I don't mind going to someone who's been divorced. And I kind of wanted to help the person that had the question. I think her name was Stella. You know, when you go together, I feel like it's good to get godly counsel from a married couple who knows the ins and outs of this thing, but one-on-one, you know what I mean? Like it's okay to get counseling from someone who's been divorced, who's been married 4 times, who's been, you know, single for a long time. It is okay to get counseling from those individuals, because it allows you to get perspective from like all different directions. So like, how do y'all feel about getting the counseling from different types? Or do you feel like you can only get counseling in your marriage from someone who's married, or can you two go together to someone who's been divorced? Like,
well, sis, let me say something real quick. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna let Anicia say something. I know she gotta leave. Let me say this quick piece right here. I feel like what you just said, from all walks of life. You know why? Because the person that has been divorced, they can tell you where they messed up at. They can tell you certain things because they have. And if you don't hear that, you just hear the marriage part that's been married for 40 years. But you might have to hear the aspect of somebody who said, I was divorced. I remarried, but I was divorced. And these are the gems that took place, because you got to learn, you got to see it in both aspects to really understand life. Life that you might not be married to somebody for 40 years or 60 years with somebody else have. So you have to hear it from the person who messed up, or their marriage didn't make it. The only reason why the Bible says we are overcomers by testimony. We are overcomers, and we're supposed to learn from one another's mistakes.
Right.
So we can't close the door to somebody who is divorced and say, well, they can't tell me nothing because they divorced. Well, the reality is it's something that they probably learned, or it's something that went on that they can probably give you so that you won't go down that road.
That's right.
And you know what also too, I think that's also important when you're getting that counsel. The singleness, when you are single and the things that you do as a single person, and then you then go over and you want to be in communion with someone else, that relationship of singleness as well is very important that you have and that it is established, because once you're with someone else, that singleness mind of me has to change to we and to us, right? So even though you may, I want a boyfriend, I want to get married and all this other stuff, I have plenty of girlfriends that still act like they're single inside of their relationships.
Wow.
You know, selfish about things, time and things like that. So all that too is also something that should be discussed when you are inside of counseling. Counseling, like I said, I get it. I can get it from anybody that can, offer, me something, if you will, to whatever it is that they're going through. And just also be mindful too that everybody that is married is not happily married either.
Right.
So being very not critical, but just clear about who you're getting counsel from, and pouring into you as well, because everybody doesn't mean you well. Like, they could have whatever going on with their relationship, and so their advice to you may be shaped and warped because of the things that they are going through, and that's what they put on you to project out, so just being very mindful, just like how we do in business. We're very particular about who we get business advice from, who our mentors are. That's where it should be the same exact way when you're going to go get counsel for your relationship, for your mama daughter relationship, like all of those things. You should be just as critical about those things that you are like your job, your work, and all of that stuff too.
Right. That's good.
Look, I'm telling you, when you talk about relationship right now, I just want somebody to know before we just refresh this. I feel like we on Clubhouse, you guys.
Right,
I need y'all to go and share this live. Tell somebody, share this live, because we are talking about relationship, what a woman wants and what a man needs. And we know relationship. Look, we can't just get this all in one night, because we can go on and on with the series of relationship, because you know why? It is needed. It is needed because, for the kingdom. Come on now, God is a relational God. We can't miss this part right here that makes us whole, that the communication. So, it's key. It is key. Let's talk about, if nobody have any other comments with the counseling, because you can go all night long. But if the reality is this, if you don't find out those things now, you know what I mean, to work on those main keys, and you go ahead and get married, then guess what? Then you might not last.
Right.
You might not last, because how long you going to stay in something and suffer because you can't, your mouth is closed. You can't even eat if your mouth is closed. You have to open your mouth in order to obtain the food that is being given to you.
Right.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So the reality is communication is key. And I feel as though that this is the time now for us to evaluate ourselves and say, you know what? I need to really tell him how I really feel. And hopefully he won't walk out the door. And if he is, then at least you told the truth. You might be by yourself for a while.
Yeah, but
She
I think
told
that comes with maturing in your own self, that when you realize,
Jeez.
and this took me time, when like I said, I went through a 8-year relationship, but I was, again, the age of 25 to 35, right? Well, to 33. And in that time span, I realized that I really didn't know myself, right? Because I was okay with not speaking up. I was okay with not saying anything. But once I learned, it's about respecting myself. I had to learn that I have to respect myself more than I respect this person, because at the end of the day, I have to live with myself. You know what I mean? Like, I have to answer for myself. And like, even like Frank said, I have to answer to God about the things that I did. Like, and being real and being honest in that is so important. We have to open our mouths. Communication is key, and it is necessary in all walks, in all types of relationships, not just with your significant other, but with your parents, your sisters, your brothers. We have to have communication for us to be healthy and whole, because you can tell if you're not healthy and whole if you can't even open your mouth and talk about what you're feeling, talk about what's going on with you, and being afraid that someone's going to leave you if you say the wrong thing. And this is why it shows maturity when you're able to talk to someone and tell them exactly how you feel. And if they leave, the maturity in you will let you know, thank you, will tell you thank you, because now you can move on and get someone who will respect everything that you say, especially when you say it with good manner, on good ground, and like really trying to self-help, like trying to understand the other person or try to understand yourself. So it's maturing that causes you to get to that point to say it's okay if they leave.
But it's not. It's and it's not even just maturity. It's really really being whole. It's really about being whole. When you get to the point where, listen, if I'm going to just be single, then God, I'm going to be single.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm like being okay with being single, if you are not okay with being single and you cannot embrace that singleness time, then how are you going to be married and in covenant with somebody else if you cannot embrace your singleness? If you cannot bring your whole self to someone else, you can't even bring your whole self to you. So how are you going to bring your whole self to somebody else? So above anything, us as women, we have to work on us. We have to work on us and being the best representative of us. Of what God requires from me to be as a woman, and how I should be. Always preparing myself for that. So I am a big proponent of, if you're not 100% whole, if you're not 100% happy with yourself, if you don't have 100% love yourself, flaws and all and everything, you cannot possibly be that with somebody else, because you will be looking for somebody to complete you. You will be looking for somebody to give you that love that you don't have for yourself. And that's just a dangerous, slippery slope, to be in, like, seriously. But the work has to start here before it can start anywhere else.
Yeah, like you season your food in the beginning. You don't season it after you cook it. So you look at it like this: you season the relationship with communication in the beginning. You can tell when food has been seasoned after it's been fried, or all of that. You could tell it doesn't taste the same. And so it's very important to do that in the beginning. Build that rapport. Keep the communication lines open, because I'm telling you, I've seen couples who were married, and I'm sitting down talking to them. My wife and I were sitting down talking to them, and we're like, "Hey, how many kids do y'all want to have?" I don't know. Like, they never talked about it. They never talked about how many kids they wanted to have. They never talked about how they're going to discipline the kids. The husband grew up getting whoopings. The mom grew up, we didn't do that in my house. So now you've got these kids, and the first time the kid acts up and needs to, be disciplined, y'all looking at each other like, okay, what we going to do? Are we spanking? Are we punished? Or, we doing timeout? What are we doing? You have couples who grew up in different, faiths. I grew up Kojic. I grew up AME, I grew up Catholic, I grew up. How you going to raise the child? I don't know. We never talked about it. Like, what do you mean you didn't talk about it? Like, you have to talk about these things because they're not going to go away. Into what the sisters have said earlier, like a lot of ladies are afraid to have real conversations out of fear that the guy might run away scared. But you're going to have these conversations. You're going to have them now, you know what I mean, out in the open where you guys can, you know, can build in the beginning where it's not in front of you, or you can have it later on and there's a lot of animosity going on because, you know, you guys have invested so much in each other, but you don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. You don't see eye to eye on the money. How we saving? Are we going to invest? Are we going to buy a single family home? We're going to buy a townhouse. Where we going to live, for God's sake? Are we going to live in DC? We're going to go to Raleigh. We're going to go to I mean, where are we going? What are we doing?
Right.
Like, these are conversations that you have to have, or it's going to cause a lot of friction and frustration in your relationship.
And I'm about to say something, and some folks might be mad at me for it. Some folks might be upset with me for it. But this is why abstinence is so important. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is why not indulging in lustful acts causes you to communicate better. I just personally believe that lust clouds your judgment.
Sister, you better say that again.
Talking. It keeps you from talking because when you talk to that person, all you can think about is the lustful, seductive side of that person. You are not thinking about where you're going to live in 30 years because you're in that moment of lust. I promise you, some people not going to like me. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. Mm-hmm. Lust clouds your judgment. It clouds your ability to even get to know that person to the fullest extent because you're so wrapped up in other stuff. And no one wants to talk about being abstinent. You feel like you got to only do the 90-day rule. No, sis, you need to wait until it is the time for you to walk down the aisle because you will know if you really want to walk down that aisle. You might go through counseling. You might go through all the planning the wedding. You might go through all the fun stuff. But when you are in a lustful situation, you might get to that breaking point and you know what, you might be like walking down the aisle and be like, this is not really what I want because I don't even know what I'm about to do. Right. I don't know who this person is. And this is why we have so many runaway brides and missing husbands on the wedding day because they get to that reality of standing at that altar when they say, this is really not what I want because I don't even know who I'm about to walk in front of. I don't even know who I'm about to present myself to. And it's like something clicks on that day. And so a lot of judgment has been clouded for years and years and years, all because you were so wrapped up in this. I'm just saying that we got to get back to teaching and helping people understand that it's okay to not give yourself away in that manner. Give your mind away first. I tell people all the time, like, there are people out here, and when I said it the other day, somebody was like, whoa, don't call me that. You become a sapiosexual, become involved, become a person who falls in love with the mind. With the mind of a person, because you really get to know them, you learn them, you understand them. Don't be attracted to the body more than you are attracted to the mind of that person, because that will teach you everything you need to know about what you're about to step into. It will allow you to make sound judgment and to really hear what that person is saying. Sis, if somebody tell you they don't like a certain type of movies, and y'all go sleep together and you come back, you want to sit down and just watch the movie just because your judgment is clouded. You're not able to talk about why you don't like those kind of movies, why you don't like that actress or actor. Like, really talk about it. We have to be careful. In this season, like, it's important that we go back to the foundational principles of how it's okay not to give yourself away prematurely.
Come on now, sis.
It's okay.
Come on now.
It's all right. It's not a social thing. It's, sex is not a social thing. You have to take it for, your body and what you need and how it's going to improve you as a person. You can't just say, oh, we're going to get married anyway, so we can go ahead and do it. No, save yourself, because you can save everything. And in those moments, you can really like be able to explore other areas of that person. And I believe that's most important.
I'm a. I have to be fair, and it's gonna be hard for me to say it, but brothers that
Tell us.
apply, brothers that applies to us too. You know what I
Boom.
mean?
Come on now.
It's hard. Lord Jesus, hard. But we would be better off if we waited too. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we took our time because, you know, I would say, like the sisters have said earlier, you know, sex clouds judgment.
Mhm.
And you build these soul ties with people and you're connected to them. And you know, when you do that, it makes you, it forces you to overlook huge flags. Like there are red
Yes.
flags all over the place.
Right.
And if you guys are having sex early, and especially if you're being satisfied by that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if the sex is good, I mean, we're grown here. If the
Right.
sex is good, that's going to cloud your judgment. And a lot of things that you're going to see, men do it too. Everybody around this brother's like Frank, you know, Ron, Mike, whoever. She ain't it, bro. She, you know, she
Right.
don't really cooperate with you. She doesn't compliment you. You know, y'all fighting all the time. You know, y'all aren't on the same page,
Right.
and you wondering why Frank and Ron and Mike can't let go. It's
Right.
because they,
Exactly.
you know, they were having sex with that woman, and it was good, and he experienced things he never experienced before, or just that connection, and it allowed, and he can't see anything else.
Right.
He can't see that this thing is going nowhere. There's no spiritual bond. There's nothing, and it would behoove you to. I remember when I was dating my wife, when we
Excuse
were
me.
courting. Bless you.
Bless
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.
When I was courting my wife, and so we would go out on dates, usually like on Saturdays, because I was working. I was still in the military at the time, and I had crazy shifts at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And so when I had free time, I would want to see her. I'm like, you know, I really I want to see her. And she would say, well, you know, I'm at the church. You know, I'm the youth choir director, so I got to do that. And I knew a lot of brothers would say, you know what, well, just, you know, get at me later. Call me when you finish. Call me when you back at home. I'll come over your crib, or we'll do something after that. But what I did was I said, you know what, no problem. Like, I want to go. I'll sit in the back. I won't buy, you know, I'll sit in the back. I'll be cool. So I'm sitting here, this young brother, 24, 23, 24 years old, in the back of some church, you know, watching my future wife teach, you know, a song to these kids. And I just watched this woman, you know, and some of those kids, God bless their heart, they couldn't sing. Like, they were bad. You know what I'm saying? But
Bad.
my wife was like, you know, but my wife was like, she was so patient with them. She was so
Wow.
loving, like my wife sings. And so she was patient. And I'm like, I'm just studying this woman. And I'm like, yo, that's
Right.
somebody I could build with. Like,
Right.
automatically, when I saw her, I was physically attracted.
Right.
But you want to focus on things that are going to stand the test of time. Like,
Right.
I'm telling you, fellas, there's going to come a time in your relationship where that physical aspect, that sex, is going to change.
That's right.
She's going to have kids. Y'all ain't going to be able to do it as often. She's going to go, her body's going to go through changes. She's going to go through menopause at a certain level. You guys are going to get older. Things that used to stand up at attention ain't going to stand up no more. Then what are you going to do? Where's the foundation of your relationship? If that's what it's
Come
all
on now.
about, that's what it's all about. That's going to change over time. So then you're not going to have anything left. So you want to, you know, study this woman, you know, study her, learn her, you know, watch her in her element. And these are things that regardless are going to stand the test of time. That communication, that love, that respect, those are things that'll never fade.
Right.
Never.
That's when you have to ask yourself, when you can't do it, what do you have? When
Right.
you can't have sex, what do you have? And you
Right.
still need to have a firm foundation, a foundational relationship built on so many other things. Like, that's just one small part. I promise you, it's very small. When you have to talk about finances, when you have to talk about the communication part, when you have to talk about emotional, spiritual,
Come on now.
natural, like, it is one very small entity, but it tears, like, it can either rip you to shreds or it can bring you close together. And I just feel like, for me, like, personally, I have been abstinent for 5 years now. for 5 years. And within that process, I know that once I get to the point in my relationship, I said, God, just make sure that it's right. And I don't have any doubt in my
Right.
mind that I'm going to be taken care of when it's time, because of all the other aspects that we've covered, right? Because I fell in love with his mind. He fell in love with mine. Everything else, you're going to be able to read my mind at that point. So I'm not even going to have questions if it's going to be good enough. You know what I'm saying? And I'm,
Right.
just being honest and candid. I'm not going to have questions about that, because everything else is great. Everything else
Right.
is so good. So now you've engulfed yourself in this true person, this true form of a person that didn't cloud it. Now I don't have any questions if God is going to make sure I'm okay in that area, because at the end of the day, it's going to be good because everything else is good. Everything else has already been talked about. We've gone down that path of understanding who you're dealing with. So, so many people get it backwards. They feel like, oh, how am I going to know if it's going to be good if we get married? No, don't worry about that. I trust that God's going to give me everything I asked him for, So I don't have to ask that question.
Well,
I don't have to worry about that.
Sis, let me say this, because somebody asked this question. How do you go from a single mindset to a married mind?
We lost you, sis. How do you go from a single mindset to a married mindset? Is that what she said?
Yes.
Can you
That
still
was
hear me, Frank? Okay, I think we lost Stephanie. Was
You'll
that
be good now.
Okay, we lost you.
Can you hear me? I don't know what that was. Could be the weather. The weather is bad.
Yeah.
How do you go from a single mindset to a marriage mindset? So how do you shift? Somebody asked that question, because y'all married, and Tori, you're about to get married. So how do you go from being single? How do you shift your single to being up to a marriage mindset?
For me, I think it just evolved. I don't think because I know. Okay, so this is the thing. You got to know if you want to be married. So if you want to be married, that mindset will evolve. Like it will just rotate and roll over into that. You get what I'm saying? So you got people who love being single. I'm good being single. I'm good where I am. So that mindset is going to be a lot harder for them to flip over into. But even if you're single and you want to be married, right? If you want to be married, once God sends you the person in your life that you can find marriage with, or that you can do marriage with, I feel as though that mindset just shifts. It just rolls, because you're already a wife in your mind. You know what I'm saying? And even though you're single and you're whole and you're working on yourself, you know where you want to be in life. So it won't be any pushback to feel like you have to transition your mind. It's going to be a rollover thing, pretty much. If that makes sense, it's kind of going to flow into that, because you already have marriage on your mind.
Okay, Frank, what do you think as the man aspect on that? How do you go from a single to a marriage a mindset on that?
Sure. It happened gradually as well over time. It's not something that you're going to do overnight, but when you just build that trust, with your partner, and you get to that point in the courting phase where this is going to be your wife, where this, and that's my wife right there in the building, showing love and supporting. She's always there on my shows and stuff like that. But thank you, baby. I love you. But yeah, it's something that gradually happens over time. And as a man, I just said, look, what do I need to do in order to ensure that my marriage is going to start off on the right foot? That's the first thing that I thought about when I bought the ring and I was getting ready to get down on one knee and ask for her, for her hand, ask for her to be my wife. And I thought about it and I said, okay, look, I have to be an open book. I believe in, having things joint. I said, okay, our bank accounts are going to be joint. There's not going to be a dollar that I make that you don't have access to. Because, if something happens to me, you need to be able to access that. You need to be able to get to it. So that's how I felt. When I first, when we decided to get married, we had, I had my cell phone, the same cell phone number for like 10 years. So that's a lot of old relationships, a lot of old late night creeps, a lot of that stuff. I mean, we're grown here. So I said, I got to change. So I went and, we went to our provider and we got new numbers. I said, everything that I did, everything that I lived, what I experienced in the past, that's over with. I can't, erase it from my memory, but, certain people aren't going to have access to me anymore.
Right.
And the people who have access to me possibly aren't going to have access to me in the same way. And I started to move differently with my family, with my mother, with my brothers, saying, hey, I love y'all. But once I decided to marry this woman, Miss Rasha Rivers, became the most important woman in my life. She became the most important person in my life. You know what I mean? It's God, my wife, my children, and then everybody else. So as much as I love y'all, and I'll be there for y'all, and do what I have to do for y'all in due time, she's the most important person to me. So that relationship, that bond, that connection comes first. And I had to show that to them, and I had to tell them that. And so it happened over time. A lot of people honestly didn't like it. Certain people were used to having access to me. Certain people were used to asking me for money and me not having to say, well, me and my wife gonna talk about that, because my finances affect her. My finances affect, what I give, who I give out money to, and how much that affects how much money I can put in the 529 college plan for my children, for our retirement, our TSP, our IRAs, whatever, that affects that. So I have to, do certain, I have to move a certain way. And that's something that you do over time. That takes trust. There are people who will give you their body easily before they do anything I just said. They ain't changing no number. Right. They ain't changing no number. They ain't giving you no money. With you, they will nothing, sleep with you way before that, before they do anything I just said. So that takes a lot of trust, but it's something that you do gradually over time. And you don't necessarily want to spring it on people. Say, hey, I'm getting married. You ain't nothing to me no more. That's not what I'm saying either. But you just let people know, hey, things have changed. I'm moving. I'm becoming one with somebody, and and that relationship, that situation, takes precedent over anything and everything else I'm doing or I've done.
Right. And I said, I was telling my counselor, I said, I can't wait to tell people, hold on, let me discuss it with my husband. I can't wait.
Come on now.
For that. Okay. Listen, don't ask me nothing and don't think I'm not going to discuss it with my husband.
They don't understand how important that is.
It's very important.
Because the two became one.
That's right. You don't make, and that goes down to the most minute answers. Like, can you come over to hang out at my house? Let me discuss it with my husband first. Let me see what he got going on. Let me come back to you. Let's get back to you. You don't have to give everybody outside of your house a quick yes and you give your family a no. You
better come on now.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
You better come on with that. That goes back to that communication part. And that's what I think that keeps that relationship strong, and it keeps it going. Frank, let me ask you a question, because you are a married man. You said you've been married for 14 years. I want to hear the aspect from you with this question. As a young man, I know you're a young man. What made you turn in your single cards and said, I want to marry her? Because some people, when you talk about marriage, they like, oh, I don't know if I can be with her for the rest of my life. Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be with him for the rest of my life. So I just want to hear you discuss with us, tell us, what made you say, you know what, she's the one. I don't want nobody else is for me. Like, she's the one, hands down.
Right. That's a great question. I'm actually, it's funny, like in a couple weeks, I'm going to actually do a whole show on that on my YouTube channel. I've been thinking about it, because I just want the brothers to hear it. But for me, I just got tired of having multiple women one way, and I just wanted to have one woman multiple ways. And
wow.
Wait a minute. Say that.
So,
right, you gotta repeat that.
Say that again.
Yeah. Okay. I got tired of having multiple women one way, and I decided and I wanted to have one woman multiple ways.
Wow.
Because a lot of times when we're young, as young men, and we have these stables of women and we're playing the field, a lot of times we only deal with these women, in one way. I mean, we all want to, obviously have a sexual relationship with them, but they do certain things that we like. Or this woman, she's a great cook, so I go over there for the food. She gonna whip up something, some Michelin star type dish for me, and we gonna chill. And this woman over here, you know, she has a great career. She travels a lot, so we do that and all of that. And I'm like, I just want one woman to encompass all of that. And I had to really believe in God and understand that that woman exists. You know what I'm saying? So I had to trust God too, because, you know, certain experiences that we have, you're like, ain't no woman out here like that. Ain't no woman that's smart and like to travel and want to be a wife and want to be a mother and love the Lord. And, you know, I ain't got to worry about, you know, her ex calling, and I ain't got, you know, a lot of guys don't really think that woman exists. Yeah. So out of fear, we play the field, and we do it because we don't really want to give all of ourselves to one person, because that's very vulnerable. That's very scary for a guy, you know what I mean, to open up and be vulnerable with one woman, for her to know all of my faults and my flaws and my shortcomings. That's scary for a man. We're designed and we're told to be tough and not show emotion and not cry and not be vulnerable. So it's hard to do that with one woman. So a lot of times we do that just out of fear of opening up to one person and that person knowing us, who we are for real. But for me, I always wanted it. Like, I grew up, you know, in a single parent home. You know, my mom and my dad, you know, they didn't make it. You know, my father was in the Army, and my mom and my dad divorced when I was like maybe 3 years old. And he was in the military. He, you know, he had trouble keeping his hands to himself. And so I grew up with that. And that was one of the reasons why I joined the military, because I wanted to basically, you know, for what I was told, that's why he was not allowed to be in the military anymore, because he couldn't keep his hands to himself with my mom. And so that was one of the reasons why I joined the military, was because I wanted to, you know, honor my name. I'm a junior, so I wanted Frank Rivers to mean something. I didn't want it to be affiliated with anything bad. So I wanted to go in and clean that name up. And so that was one of the reasons why I went in the Army. But I always wanted marriage. You know, when I was a kid, I would go in the store with my mom, and, you know, she'd be taking a long time. You know how, I ain't gonna say that, but my mom loved to shop and take her time. But so when she was doing that, I would go in the magazine section. I read my little Word Up magazine, and I read The Jet. And I would read The Jet, and I would go to the centerfold on page 43, like all the brothers do. And then after that, I would go to the little wedding portion. And you will always see these couples, beautiful couples. The guy was an engineer, the wife was a nurse. They got married, they met at Howard, or they met at A&T, and, you know, they vacation, they honeymooned in Cabo or whatever. And then you will always go after that. It'd be like 3 or 4 of those, and you will always go back and see that older couple. They always had their older couple in there, been married 30, 40, 50 years. They'd always ask them, you know, how'd y'all stay together? And it was always by the grace of God and trusting God. And I said, I want that. You know what I mean? I didn't have it. I would play intramural. I would play sports when I was a kid, and we would go and we would play in these other neighborhoods, like in these white neighborhoods, and we would play basketball at their rec centers, and we would play basketball against them, and their whole family would come out. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. They got the camcorder. And me and my friends, my teammates, we'd be so mad because all of us grew up in the projects. We didn't really know our dads. So we were so mad that these people's whole families came out to see them. We would like be the bad boy Pistons to them little white kids. I'm sorry, but we would rough them up. We would blow them out because we were mad because we didn't have that family. We didn't have, our fathers weren't there. Our grandfathers weren't there. So I said, you know, I want that for myself. I want a family. I want to grow old with one person. I don't want to juggle and play the field and be 40, 50 years old at the cabaret, still trying to pull some young woman and, you know, with some, you know,
not the
clothes that are out of style. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that. I want to be married. I want to grow old with somebody. And so when I saw my wife, she just exhibited these characteristics that I just fell in love with. She was humble. She was sweet. She loved the Lord. You know, she would pray with me. She would pray for me. You know, there were times in our relationship, I remember, and I'm gonna just say this, I don't want to keep rambling, but I remember one time, I'll never forget it, when we first got married, and we had bought our house, our first home, and I had got out of the military, and I didn't find a job as fast as I thought I was going to find one. So I'm sitting here, I got a wife, I got a new wife. You know, I have a home, I have a mortgage, and I don't have a job. You know what I mean? I still had money from the military. I was still going to school, so I was getting money from the military, but I didn't have a place to go. And as a man, that frustrated me. That made me feel like I was less than a man. I didn't have that feeling of coming home from work tired, you know, was something that a man is supposed to feel, in my personal opinion. And I couldn't do that. And it hurt me to my core. And my wife will always tell me, babe, I love you. You still the head of this house. I believe in you. You know, let me look at your resume. Let me, you know, because she does that. So she would look at my resume, help me, you know, like we would go over interview questions together. And she never, and you know, and when she never made me feel like I had fell off because of that one moment in my life where, you know, I had a little setback. And so it's just things like that that made me say, you know what, I can give everything and everybody up to marry a woman like this and be faithful with her and spend the rest of my days with her if God permits.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. It took me back to that scripture, a wise woman who built her house. You know, she didn't just say, you know, well, oh, you ain't got no job or you ain't got this or I'm out the door. But it was more as a wife, you know, her whole mindset had changed and said, well, you know, what can we do? I always say this. It's like people say things that's going on in the world. It's like we can talk about everything that's going on. But what are we doing to help it? You know what I mean? What are we doing to help you know, repair? What are we doing back in our community? What are we doing? I mean, to talk about it, anybody can do that, but it's not changing our foundation. You know, it's not changing that roof or that, you know, what's going on in life. I'm always saying, like, you know, it's like that wise woman who builds her house to say, okay, what we need. I already know what's going on. Just tell me what we need. Because anybody needs to stress about anything, it's not going to help the situation. I really like that. Right. It's a lot of gems on that right there. Frank, you got a lot of wisdom. I mean, I've heard you even on some of your lives on YouTube, and I'm like, yo, and I heard you say one of them recently. You was like, I'm not a minister or anything like that. Like, you have so much wisdom. Can I just say this to you? You have so much. You had so much wisdom as a young man. And I feel like that wisdom, a lot of young men, they need to hear you. You know, they need to hear your voice. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, I'm telling you, it's so much powerful. The things that you're saying, it has so much weight and it carries so much power. And it's like, hold on, like, you a young man and you talking like this? Like, I remember myself as being a kid when you just went back to the Jet magazine and you said that, because they always showed you the young married couples, but you are so right. They always showed you as well the older ones who have been married for years. Right. And if the reality is this, if I want to get there, what is the secret to a long relationship, marriage? What is the secret? Is the secret communication? Is the secret, you know, what I mean, is it telling all your business? Because it's the reality is this, a lot of things that this generation don't know. We don't know. And we're not making it or lasting that long in marriages. Right.
Yeah,
I think our mindset. Yeah. Go ahead, you can share.
No, I was just saying that, you know, it's important for me. I talk about it a lot on my channel because I think, you know, especially as Black people, you know, we have these conversations about, well, what do we need to do to get back, you know, to kind of put ourselves in a better light? And we talk about politics and we talk about money and resources and economic base and all of that. But at the end of the day, the most important thing that we can do is love one another and build strong families. That's the foundation of any group of people. You know, a group of people is measured by the quality of its families. And if you don't have a family aspect, if you don't have man, woman, and child, masculine, feminine balance, you know what I mean, under that headship of Christ, of your spiritual source, you're going to have problems. And in our communities, we don't really have that as much. And so that's why a lot of, you know, you're seeing a lot of dysfunction. But, you know, we have to, and I tell brothers all the time, because, you know, I talk to a lot of brothers and they're very radical. They're like, Frank, we need to go out here and, you know, they killing us and we got to do this and we need to pick up a gun and we need to do whatever. And I say, look, brother, the most revolutionary thing you can do as a Black man in this country is to love a Black woman marry her, and take care of the children y'all make together. That's the
Come
most
on.
revolutionary thing you can do in this country, because strong families create strong communities.
Come
You know,
on.
strong communities create a strong culture. Strong culture is strong people, a strong nation. It's all the foundation of all of that is family. The first thing that, you know, before God built a church, before God had to put the thought in someone's mind to build a temple, he created a man and a woman. So that's the foundation of everything. Without that man and that woman, who's inspired to write the Bible? Who are we looking at to get this wisdom from? Through these people's experiences in the Bible.
That's it.
How do we, you know, it starts from the man and the woman, and it starts from us respecting one another, loving one another, appreciating each other, not having this battle about I'm up here, you're down here, you're supposed to do this for me, whatever. No, I respect who you are. I respect what you do.
Come
You
on.
are my equal. You are my balance. You are my mirror to show me things about myself that I don't see. And so if we can come together and work together and love one another, a lot of the problems that we're seeing in our homes and outside of our homes would not exist. They just would.
Right. Frank, you giving away all the Jews. You can't give them away
Yeah,
all
yeah.
in one
I
show.
got
We
some
gotta
more
have
for
you
them though.
back.
Yeah, I got enough. Yeah.
We definitely gonna have you back.
I got enough for them.
Yeah.
We definitely look, because it's so good. And I got one more question,
Okay.
just one to ask you, Frank. I just have one, and I know we got to have you back because you're saying so much awesome stuff. I just want to hit this part right here because see, a lot of people can't sing to when they get married. You know how you have those friends, like you said, they still come to you like, Frank, we got to do this, we got to do that, bro. You know what I mean? What would you say to the guys that are watching live right now? Who's saying, yo, I'm my brother's keeper. That's my homie. Like, yo, man, we single for life. No, come over to this club. Come over here. Like, what do you say to them? You know,
you just have to be honest with them. I experienced that, and Lord knows my wife know. But you know, I have, you know, family members and friends were like, you know, come over here, let's do this, let's hang out. You know, why you ain't gotta check in, you ain't gotta you ain't gotta talk to your wife about it. Just come through. You the man, like you know, we grew up. I've known you my whole life. And what I would say to fellas who may be experiencing that, I would say that, you know, you go back to that book and you open it up and it says that, you know, when you were a child, you thought a certain way, you moved a certain way, but when you became a man, you put away childish things. You know what I mean? And if you're married, you know, running around in the street, not taking care of your household, that's a childish thing. You know what I mean? And so you let them know in love, like, look, I love you. I had to let family members know, brothers know, cousins, all kind of people I grew up with, ran the street with. I love y'all. That'll never change.
Right.
But I'm not the same man that y'all grew up with. I'm not little Frank no more. I'm big Frank with a wife and children and a household to provide and protect for. And I'm different. It don't mean that I love you. It doesn't mean that I don't love you. It just means that I can't do those things because I'm not that person anymore. And you have to understand as a man that everybody who came with you can't go with you. You know what I mean? Everybody that came with you to this point can't go with you to the next point in your life. And that's okay. You know what I mean? I talked about on my last show, like there are people out here who, even though they're family, some of the type of relationships that you had with them, those are seasonal. Those aren't designed to last forever. You running around with your brother in the street all night, all weekend. That's not designed. That's a seasonal thing. That's not designed to be a lifelong thing. So you have to understand that you have responsibilities. You have to realize that you still love them and that's okay. You know what I mean? You still spend time with them. You don't necessarily exclude them. So you can still do things with them, but you got to know, like, look, at a certain hour, I got to check in. I got to go home. You know what I'm saying? I love you. You still my brother. You still my friend. You still my cousin, but I'm a different man now. I'm responsible for somebody right now. And I'm not going to allow anyone or anything to cause friction or dysfunction in that relationship. I can't do it. Not even for you. And I love you, but I can't do that for you.
Right. This is awesome.
Frank, you said enough. I mean, this is so powerful, right? look, I know we are wrapping up. I know somebody said, look, how could they follow you? What's the channel? Because somebody wrote that in the comments. Tell us how they can follow you. Tell them how they can, glean.
Sure. So I'm on all social media platforms. I'm on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called View from the Man Cave. If you type in View from the Man Cave, you'll see my face and and my content there. You can subscribe there. I do shows for the most part. I try to do shows every Tuesday night. I'm doing the show this Tuesday night, and it's called I think it's called Do You I think it's along the lines of asking men and women, do you qualify for the type of person that you want, that you expect, that you desire? What are you willing to give and sacrifice for the type of person that you say you want? And and if you put yourself in a position to get that type of person or receive that. So I'm gonna talk about that on Tuesday night. I'm on Instagram as well, View from the Man Cave, or if you type in my name, Frank Rivers, I'll come up on Instagram. I'm on Clubhouse. I believe that's how I met this sister Stephanie on Clubhouse. So I'm in Clubhouse a lot. I'm in a lot of rooms.
Look, I'm
talking about
right now. That's
talking about relationships. Yeah. So a brother of mine, the brother Art, very good brother. He does rooms on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Titled "Ask a Black Man Anything." So I'm usually on that panel with him. So a lot of other distinguished brothers, and so a lot of ladies come up and just ask us all kind of questions about relationships. Why do guys do this? Or I'm dating this guy, he's doing this. What does that mean? So, and it's a very safe space. We respect the queens. We don't judge them or come down on them too hard. So the women love that. So we usually have about anywhere between 800 and 1,000 people in that room, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So that's great. And I'm on Twitter as well. View from Man Cave on Twitter. So I'm everywhere. So I'll be around. You'll definitely see me. And I just want to, again, before you wrap up, I just want to thank you, and Tori as well, for the opportunity to come on the show. You reached out to me and I said, I'm going to be there. I got you. And anytime you guys want to have me back on or come on my show, I would love to have y'all on.
Oh,
for sure. For sure, brother. Like, look, this has been awesome tonight. Right. It was definitely a pleasure. And that's how I found you, right? When you was talking about the Man Cave, they was shooting some good stuff. And I was like, this got to come on live. Want to take over crossover.
Right. Well, I went to.
Well, as we're wrapping up,
gonna look for it.
Right. The Man Cave.
And actually, I'll copy the link and I'll send it to y'all on Instagram. I'll DM y'all the link for the YouTube channel and stuff.
Awesome.
And when we go live, like on the Clubhouse rooms, I'll let y'all know on Instagram in the DM. So I got you.
Awesome.
So
actually, I was looking for your Facebook page because I know you went live on Facebook too, but I couldn't find. I found the Takeover Crossover podcast page, but I didn't see the live for tonight on there. So I was going to ask you about like what, if it was on your personal page for the live tonight or what, so I could, tap into.
It actually is. It's on both. And I think we have to be friends in order for you to see it. So we'll definitely I'll send you a message. So you can be able to share it on your page tonight.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So as we're wrapping up on tonight, my co-host Tori Danielle, if you have any other remarks you want to say before we wrap it up, sis?
No, sis, I'm good. I enjoyed the night, Frank. I'll definitely be looking for you on Clubhouse. I'm a Clubhouse junkie because this is what we do. I'm on Clubhouse every single day. I don't understand how we have not crossed paths yet because But I thank God for you. I thank God for your wisdom and your understanding. It was a plum pleasing pleasure to spend time with you and to pick your brain and to see so we can have this dialogue because it's necessary in the kingdom and in our community. So this was great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Frank. Y'all hear it right now from the Man Cave. Make sure y'all go follow him. And fellas, take some of them gems and try to apply it to what you needed, to where it needed to go. Drink the water, let it go to wherever it needs to go. So on tonight, we thank everybody on tonight for watching and tuning in to the Takeover Crossover. We really thank you for your support on tonight. Remember, go to our YouTube channel, Takeover Crossover Podcast, subscribe. So when we have shows, guess what? You can know what's going on over here. We come in with wealth. We come in with finances. We come in with prayer. We come in with all the aspects to a healthy life and a healthy walk in this journey, you know. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, go to our Facebook page, like, subscribe, share with your brothers, your sisters, because it's going down here on the Takeover Crossover Podcast. Until next time, have a blessed night. Thank you again for tuning in.